Hi everyone, welcome back to Chop's Garage, and it is time to have a little sit down and chat again about the insanity that is going on with the Consumer Rights Act within car dealing at the moment. So, if you're unaware of what the Consumer Rights Act is, every time a vehicle is sold, it falls under the Consumer Rights Act. People think you have to have by law 3 months warranty, that kind of thing. No, warranties do not have to be provided under law. I can sell a car without any warranty at all. That's no problem whatsoever because every sale falls under the Consumer Rights Act. Consumer Rights Act says that within the first 30 days, if there is a fault with the vehicle, it can be returned to the dealer. He doesn't have to have the opportunity to be able to fix it, but there has to be a fault. If it goes over 30 days and up to 6 months, if there is a fault that occurs, it's assumed that fault was on the vehicle at point of sale and the dealer is responsible for fixing it unless he can prove it wasn't a fault at point of sale. And the key thing here is what people don't really understand is the point of sale thing. So what the law is saying is not that a dealer has to sell you a car that doesn't go wrong. He has to sell you a car that wasn't wrong at the point you purchased it. Totally different. So if a dealer can prove that a fault didn't exist, I'll take something simple like an electric window. If he's got a video of the car on his forecourt and he's done your walk around video and he's putting the window up and down, he can prove if you claim after 3 months the electric window stopped working, he can prove that the window was working sufficiently at that point. Now, that doesn't mean that the dealer can get away without repairing it because there is a part of the law that says that everything should be of satisfactory quality and last for a reasonable amount of time after you've purchased it. This is where the difficulty with the law comes in because if you have purchased a 2024 used Golf, it's fair to say you'd expect that electric window to work longer than 2 or 3 months. Had you purchased a £1,000 Nissan Micra on a 2004 with 120,000 miles on, is it fair to accept that in both those scenarios, the dealer is responsible for the electric window to be repaired? Another element comes into play that after 6 months, you can still make a claim, but you have to prove the fault existed at the point of sale as a consumer. So, normally in those circumstances, what has to happen is you have to get an independent report that says this fault was developing, this fault existed at point of sale or was developing at point of sale. So that doesn't mean you haven't got any rights after 6 months. It just means you have to prove the fault was on the vehicle at point of sale. But it still comes into play as what vehicle we're talking about here. How old is it? How many miles has it done? How many miles have you done in since you've owned it? Because again, it could be a 2024 Golf, but now you've done 30,000 miles in 12 months. You've done 30,000 miles in 12 months, so now the vehicle's done 50,000 miles. Versus somebody else who's got 2024 plate one and they've only done 2,000 miles. You know, are the two aren't exactly the same? And again, you can have another person that's driving a car that's a 2012 that's done 120,000 miles. It can't be that that same component is the responsibility of the dealer in all those scenarios. But unfortunately, there's no clarification in law for that at all. Now, what this has led to is people taking the Consumer Rights Act and using it to batter dealers over the head, over their vehicle, any fault on their vehicle, regardless of how old it is, regardless of how long they've had it for. There's claims up to, under law you can claim up to 5 years. So regardless of how many miles they've done, regardless of what vehicle it is, what price point they paid, all of these things, everyone is putting claims in for everything because their understanding the law is either that basically the dealers are responsible for absolutely everything. And I say, as time is going by, we are seeing, and the internet's obviously out there. There's lots of YouTube channels out there. There's lots of advice forums on Facebook giving out some really poor advice. So I just had an example come across my desk that I had to share with you, and this is a prime example of what we're talking about here. And we'll go on to discuss as well how I think this is going to affect the car market for consumers going forwards. So you have to excuse me looking across. I'm going to take it directly from the page, but I'm on a group on Facebook for dealers. Saw this one come across before. This guy said, I've just had this letter come across my desk. Where do you think we are with it? So, story is he sold a Discovery 4 in March 2023. So it doesn't say what year the one he sold was, but Discovery 4 was up to 2015, 2016. So this car is going to be about, let's say, 9 years old. At the newest, 9 years old, could be considerably older. The customers had it for 13 months and they've done 25,000 miles in 13 months. Got a car that's 9 years old, he's done 25,000 miles, and the total mileage now is 83,000 miles when this story kicks off. So he's bought the car with just under 50,000 miles on it. So he's bought a 9-year-old car with about 50,000 miles on it. He's had it for 13 months, and he's done 25,000 miles in it in that time. And it's the V6 diesel. So what's happened is that the crankshaft has blown up basically on it. Incredibly well-known issue with these Land Rovers. Anyone that was looking to buy one should know, if they've done any research at all, that this is a very high risk for buying the engine, that will happen. Some last for a long time, but it's very, very common for it to happen. So this happens after 25,000 miles on this 9-year-old vehicle, and the dealer gets a letter, and this is what the letter says. So I'm going to abbreviate it so that I'm not reading it verbatim off here, because I don't know what the legal stance of that is. But basically, the guy writes to say that I'm going to initiate legal proceedings, so I'm take to small claims court over the Consumer Rights Act, based on the fact that the vehicle that he bought for 29 grand, he bought it for, has suffered a catastrophic engine failure. Now, 29 grand sounds a lot for a vehicle, but they do go for very good money. I remember we had one in here, what was it, 22,000, 23,000, and it had more miles than 50 odd on it. And this is one of the issues you get as well, is that some vehicles hold their value really well, or they're very expensive when they start, but that doesn't stop them being 9 years old. The fact you spent 29 grand on it doesn't mean there's any less risk than had you spent, let's say, what other 9-year-old car? Let's say you bought a 9-year-old Dacia that might only be 4 or 5 grand. They're still the same age, so they experience the same seasonal changes of wet and cold, and they've also, if they've got the same mileage on, they still experience the same amount of wear within the engine. Just because one's 29 grand doesn't mean that it should last any longer than the Dacia of the same age and the same miles. Just one happens to have loads of gadgets on it. It's twice the size. It's got loads of gadgets on it, loads of high-tech equipment on it. But it doesn't really mean that just because you spend that much money on it, you should be entitled to that much more than the person that spent 5 or 6 grand on a Dacia. But again, fortunately, the law doesn't clarify. But anyway, carry on. So the engine catastrophically failed. So what's the guy done? Has he gone to the dealer and gone, the engine's catastrophically failed? I know I've had it for 13 months, but is there something we can do? No. He does what such a lot of people do. He puts it straight into a Jaguar Land Rover specialist, and he has them whip the engine out, check it over, find out what the fault is, and put a replacement engine in it at a cost of £10,800. So now he's going, it's not a problem. You put the engine in there, because I'm going to go after the dealer for that. The dealer's going to pay for that. No conversation with the dealer before. No agreement he's willing to pay the labour rates of the Land Rover specialist. No agreement that he's going to have maybe a used engine, because this sounds like it's a new engine, isn't it? You had a car with a used engine in with 80,000 miles on, and we're going to replace it with another used engine with 80,000 miles, which the dealer's perfectly within his rights to do, because they have a brand new engine in. It's called betterment. You didn't buy a car with a 0-mile brand new engine in it. You bought one at 50,000 miles. Now you got like 80,000 miles on it. So did he have any of those conversations? No, he didn't. He just went ahead on the basis that under Consumer Rights Act, the dealer's going to pick up the bill on this. So he said, under the Consumer Rights Act, goods must be of satisfactory quality, fit for purpose, and last a reasonable length of time. He's not incorrect that is in the law. He claims that the vehicle failing at 13 months with another 25,000 miles on it means that it didn't last a reasonable length of time, and therefore the dealer is in breach of contract, and he wants a full reimbursement of the costs, which have now jumped to £12,800. He's obviously adding lots of other stuff on top. But interestingly, he's also got a report that says that the Land Rover specialist has said that this is a well-documented design flaw with the engine, and Land Rover has acknowledged the issue. So what he's saying is the manufacturers admitted that this is an issue with their engine. I've bought one, an old one, and done 80,000 miles in it, or done 25,000 miles in it, bought it at 50,000 miles. And now that's failed. You know who's at fault, aren't you? You, Mr. Dealer. You're the one that's at fault. You're the one that wants to pick up the bill for £12,000 for this engine, because I should have been able to buy this vehicle that has a well-known fault used at no risk whatsoever to myself. And although it worked perfectly for 13 months, after I purchased it from you, it must have been an issue when it went out the door 13 months and 25,000 less miles ago. So this dealer's saying, what's the score? Surely Land Rover should be responsible for this, not for me. If anybody's going to be hauled over the coals of this, surely it's going to be Land Rover, not me. Car's not failing over a year later because you didn't prep it up properly and you skipped things as a dealer. It's failed because of the make and model of car it is, the issues those make and models have, and due to another 20 odd thousand miles worth of driving. It's got bugger all to do with the way the dealer prepped the car before you picked it up. And this idea that we should be carrying the can more so than the people that even made the vehicle. You know, the manufacturer's warranty is 3 years, the car is 6 years old, 8 years old. The fact that we should pick up the can and carry the can for that vehicle and provide as brand new warranties that we will replace anything if it fails later on, because just assumed it would have been a fault at point of sale. It's just utterly ridiculous. And if that is the way the model is going to work, if this is going to carry on going this way and people it's going to go in these people's favour, and the courts are going to allow them to do this, you can see used car sales disappearing. You will only be able to buy very brand new cars or cars under sort of 5 years old, ones that can still go back to the manufacturer, and it'll all be 100% private sales. Now, some people out there will be going, yeah, get rid of dealers. We don't want dealers. They're scumbags, blah, blah, blah. But you start buying cars off the public in volume, and you'll soon learn that some of the worst people out there are private sellers selling cars without declaring faults. You won't be able to part exchange your car in. I mean, forgetting even that side of it, you're not going to be able to part exchange your car in. You're going to have to sell yours privately off the driveway as well. You're not going to be able to get finance on the older used cars because dealers won't be selling them. Oh, you go, yeah, that's brilliant. No more car dealers. They're scumbags anyway. Well, what are you going to do with your old car when you want to get a new one? Unless you're going to go absolutely brand new. If you've all got the finances to go and get a car that's absolutely brand new, how are you going to get rid of your old car? I said, okay, I'll sell it privately off of my driveway. Well, a lot of people don't want to sell cars privately off the driveway. They don't want the hassle. When you go to buy an older car, you're not going to be able to buy it from a dealer, so you're going to be buying it from another private person, and you'll have zero comeback if there's any problem with that. I mean, even we're talking about people trying to claim for cars after a year, but even if they just said that it's 3 months was the limit at a certain age, and 1 month was the limit at another age, that would give you more protection than buying a car off of a member of the public, where currently you get zero comeback at all. Private people are dishonest when they sell used cars. You buy a car for dealer, if they're dishonest, you've still got comeback. You haven't from private, and private people will sell you a car with faults, and they will justify it to them in lots of different ways as to why it's okay to do so, and they'll feign complete innocence. I'm sure many of you have been burnt in the past buying cars for private, which is why dealers exist. One of the other reasons dealers exist in the first place. So I don't see, we could say this is all great for the consumer. Yeah, I mean, it's great for the consumer if you can buy a model of car that the manufacturer knows has a fault inherently and won't last that long. If you can buy that off of a used dealer at half the price it was brand new, drive it around for over a year, and know that if this issue happens, it's somebody else's problem. Somebody probably made £1,500 max out selling the car to you that's going to have to pick up 10 grand bill. Law needs clarification. Too many people are on there reading the Consumer Rights Act, getting advice from, there's a particularly poor forum online for the Big Motoring World Forum. There's a chap that runs that, is so far up his own rear end, it's crazy. And he applies the law in such random ways, even deciding to ignore the 6-month burden of proof rule. That means that the consumer has to prove that the vehicle was at fault at point of sale after 6 months. There's people like him giving really, really poor advice out there. There's people going online and reading the Consumer Rights Act and picking the little bits they like out of it. And everybody's like, stick it to the dealer, stick it to the dealer, stick it to the dealer. It's so hard to trade. There needs clarification. What does fit for purpose actually mean? What is an acceptable period of time for a dealer to be responsible for faults and then the consumer to take over? At what point does the consumer take over the maintenance of that vehicle, and it not be that they were sold faulty goods, just that goods became faulty as they were used? There's no definitions in there at all. It's all going to come down to what a judge decides. We know it most of the time it will fall in favour of a consumer because they'll be there going, I don't know anything about cars. I didn't know about this when I bought it, and I've been told these all go wrong like this, and it had one missed service history from 2024 or whatever. I've seen this online as well. People go taking dealers to court because they bought a car with a part service history. Then when something goes wrong with it later on, go, oh, well, this fault happened because it had a part service history, so it was at fault at point of sale. It's absolutely crazy out there. And again, we can think this is just, a lot of people out think this will be comeuppance for dealers, but it's not going to do anybody any favors in the long run. And especially as more the components on vehicles are getting more and more expensive. And we're not even talking about big stuff like this. It's going to become unsustainable for simple things as well. It doesn't have to take an engine, as something as severe as an engine, to go to completely wipe out the profit on 3 or 4 car deals. There's just so many functions in a modern car, safety features, lane assists, and blind spot warnings, and radar controls, and massive touch screens, and just body control units in these cars that are controlling everything that's going on with them, and complex ECUs. It doesn't take much to completely wipe out the profit out of a couple of car deals. And at least if a dealer knew that if I sell cars up to 5 years old, I'm pretty much responsible for everything for a couple of years. If I sell cars up to 10 years old, I'm only responsible for them up to sort of 6 months. And if I sell things over 10 years old, I'm only responsible for a month or two. Everyone could decide their risk appetite then, couldn't they? They could go and say, well, I'm happy doing cars at that price point. But at the moment, no one knows what their risk appetite is, because there's no real definition as to, how long you're responsible for it. So anyway, get in the comments down below. Let me know your thoughts on it. Always interesting. I'm sure we'll have the idiots in there that think that we make 25% per car and never have to put a penny into them. But the reality is, hopefully, if you've watched this channel for any time, you have a good idea that there just isn't the profit margin in vehicles that there might have been in the past. And that's because of the internet, because prices are now fixed. Everyone knows what their car should be, what they should be paying for their car. They know what their part exchange is worth. They now know all about their rights. Why would someone discount a car for you if you're going to say that I'm going to hold you accountable for this for up to the next 2 years, 3 years? Why would you discount a penny off it? So it's going to go one of two ways. Either cars are going to get a hell of a lot more expensive used, or you just won't be able to buy cars over 5 or 6 years old from independent dealers. So yeah, comment down below. Where do you think this is going to go? As always, massive thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. So in case you missed it, our prize from the last raffle, the Ford Fiesta ST here on a 2015 with only 50-odd thousand miles, the winner decided to have the cash instead. So we've started up a new raffle on the Ford Fiesta again, but this time we limited the tickets to 2,000, a maximum of 2,000 tickets. As soon as the 2,000 tickets are sold, the car is drawn immediately. Well, I'm here to tell you that after just about a week or so of running it, we only have 600 tickets left. Most people have been buying the buy 3 get 1 free bundle, so the number of entrants is actually really low. As always, we'll be supporting a charity. This time we're going to support Torrington Food Bank, one of the charities we've supported before. We know that any money we give to them makes a massive difference. So I'll put a link to that in the video description down below, and I'll probably put a QR code on the screen as well now, which you can just scan, or just search Chops Garage Raffle.